The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Friday Night Live with me, Hafiz Shaban, on this very wet evening on the Friday, the 11th of October 2019, corresponding to the 11th of Safar, the second month in the Islamic calendar, 1441. As usual, we are broadcasting from Inspire FM, Luton on 105.1 FM, inshallah, and also broadcasting to our sister stations nationally in Sheffield via Link FM, Peterborough, Salam, Derby, Nottingham, and as always also live Facebook broadcast and stream, so you are able to follow us via Facebook and of course via the Inspire FM app. 01582 481822, 01582 481822 is the number here in the studio for you, all of you keen individuals who want to speak to me and speak to my guests and get involved with our conversation, right? And that's what we always recommend to our listeners. 07779 481822, 07779 481822 is the number for those of you that don't want to quite speak to me in person but want to share your thoughts via SMS or WhatsApp messages. Either way, you're more than welcome. Send in your SMS, send in your WhatsApp, or speak to me direct and speak to my guest direct tonight as we discuss and debate some of the hot and topical discussions that we're going to be bringing to you, inshallah ta'ala. Right, so what do we have lined up this evening? And just before I go into what we do have lined this evening, we are going to go for a Maghrib Azan at 6:22, so slightly earlier than normal. So we'll be breaking at 6:22. That only gives us about 20 minutes to cover a couple of short stories in the first half of the show. Inshallah ta'ala, we want to go into we want to go straight to Pakistan. Hopefully we're trying to get through to Pakistan at the moment to get an update on the Kashmir earthquake, the Pakistan earthquake. As you will remember, late September, we want to get an update, inshallah ta'ala, and we have brother Abdul Qadir from Crisis Aid, who is out in Pakistan and who's going to be giving us an update in terms of what is the latest situation in Pakistan, how is the relief effort coming along in Pakistan, what is the status on the ground, what is the situation on the ground over the last couple of days. I know brother Basharat, the barrister from Luton, our own very local Luton barrister, brother Basharat has also been in Pakistan. He's on his way back to the UK. We may be able to get through to him depending on what time he's landed, so we're going to also try that, inshallah ta'ala, but we're going to get an update hopefully from either of the two sources. And I do remember the videos that brother Bashar has been sharing whilst he's been over in Pakistan in terms of some of the relief camps and some of the pictures from the ground. It just goes to show that there is a lot of effort that is required, a lot of relief effort that is still required. Your assistance is really, really welcome, right? So hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, very soon we're going to be trying to get through to Pakistan, through to Abdul Qadir or through to brother Basharat. Another story that I want to cover, and hopefully we're going to be speaking to our brother Mizanur Rashid later, is this very disturbing story that has emerged from Bangladesh, right? Very disturbing story, and it's a short story we're going to cover, inshallah ta'ala, and that is with regards to an individual who was actually a brother called a student, Abrar Fahad, who was beaten up on campus and murdered, and it has led to a public outcry in Bangladesh. Now, you know, a lot of us will be familiar with the so-called political parties in the Asian subcontinent. In fact, it's true even of some of the other countries, right? But they also have these unofficial military wings associated with these political parties, and these so-called thugs are the ones that go around on the streets, you know, meting out discipline and punishment to anyone who speaks out against their political leaders. And one such incident has been in Bangladesh, where one particular very intelligent student, mashallah, wrote out against the Sheikh Hasina and her policies and some of her agreements with India, and that led to members of Sheikh Hasina's party attacking this individual, leading to his unfortunate demise, right? A fatality, and that's caused an outcry. We're going to be speaking to your brother on that later, and then of course we're going to be covering also some of the other stories that have been making the headlines. Of course, I mean, we've seen the events in Turkey and Syria, where Turkey has gone into Syria. Now, subhanallah, I mean, it goes to show when they feel like it, they can do whatever they like. For the last 6 years, the people of Syria have been calling out for someone to go and help them. I didn't see Turkey making much of a gesture, but suddenly Turkey's found itself in northern Syria. So what is it doing in northern Syria? It's caused an outcry, and it's caused a lot of fatalities already, and a lot of organizations to call out with regards to human rights. So we're going to be finding out what's the update from that. But let me go straight to Abdul Qadir, because we have now got Brother Abdul Qadir online, and I don't want to waste any time, and I want to introduce Brother Abdul Qadir immediately. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Abdul Qadir.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can, Sheikh. Jazakallah khairan for joining us. We've been trying for the last couple of minutes to get through to you. Mashallah, you're of course in Pakistan. Do you want to just give our listeners an update in terms of the situation on the ground, Akhi? We've just got a couple of minutes, and we just want to get a quick update in terms of the post-earthquake relief efforts, and where you are, and what have you found on the ground in Pakistan, and what's the current situation, Akhi?
Okay, so basically, what's on the ground, happening on the ground now is, first you need to appreciate that the situation is nothing like what you probably heard in the news over in UK.
All right.
Because when I was in UK, I was in two minds whether to even come here or not, thinking that Newport was one of the wealthiest parts of Kashmir, and lots of the people of the relatives live in England. And also that the earthquake wasn't that bad.
Yes.
This was the understanding.
Correct.
But what happened when I got here was quite the opposite, where basically you found that 80% of Liverpool has been affected.
80%?
That's a huge amount.
Subhanallah.
Now, that doesn't mean that they're all basically, the houses are completely destroyed, all 80%. But what it means is that about 30% of the houses have been very, very badly affected, very badly.
Yeah.
Of them, about 10-15% completely destroyed. And the homes which have been completely destroyed are mainly the homes of those poor people who didn't have enough wealth to actually build the houses properly. So they made simple homes, and these homes are now completely destroyed, turned into rubble. And these people now are living in tents outside their homes, and they're relying on rations. They're relying on people. Winter's coming in 2 weeks, so they're relying on people to give them blankets and waterproof tarpaulin. There's a massive need here. I went through the epicenter. I walked completely all around the epicenter, a place called Sang, and those from Luton will know the area Sang. It's on a hill. Right. It goes up. And there's also some remote areas like Dhaka, and even places like, Chittirapati. Some people know this, Chittirapati. Right. They know this area. It's been affected.
So is it more... So Brother Abdul Qadir, is it more of the kind of the village areas and as opposed to the main city of Mirpur? Is that what you're telling us?
Yes, the share has also been affected, but not as bad as the other areas.
So why don't you give us an update? What's the latest on the fatalities? And as you said, I mean, definitely that's the impression that we've got here in the UK, that it wasn't that bad, low fatalities, and yet there was some structural...
Let me tell you. So basically, we're looking at about roughly about 75 deaths now.
Right.
About 3,000 people being affected in some form, over 3,000.
Right.
And sorry, I beg your pardon. 3,000. Hold on one second. Okay, about 3,000 have been injured. 300 been injured, and over 3,000 have been actually lost their homes.
Right.
Some form or fashion, some way.
Right.
They're big numbers,
Yeah. Absolutely.
There's a number of agencies here working.
Yeah.
They're doing good work, alhamdulillah. But I'm telling you, they need support.
Yeah.
You know, a new agencies coming over here now, I don't think is the best way forward.
Right.
But what the present agencies that are here, like Crisis Aid and Muslim Hands and others who are here on the ground, they should be supported through financial donations.
Right.
So these people here, they've lost their homes.
Yeah.
And now they've got to choose. I mean, I'm talking here specifically about the poor people here.
Yeah.
They have to choose between, you know, when they work to feed their family or save to rebuild their home.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a very dire situation.
Right.
The first one government is only going to give them less than about 10-20% of the cost of rebuilding.
Yeah.
So they're stuck.
Okay. All right. So last 2 minutes, Abdul Qadir, what is the kind of support that you want to see from, you know, the communities in the UK? I've still heard of, you know, Friday announcements being made to collect the funds, right? But it has gone into the back end of the memories of a lot of people precisely because of the opening comments that we've made, right? What is the kind of help and relief that you want to see coming from the community from the UK, Akhi?
You know, what we really need to see is a reawakening to help the people of Kashmir, Mirpur specifically. We need a reawakening. Everybody needs to be donating. People need to be giving. And, you know, when you give, the people have relatives in Mirpur who know poor people who can go and help them. You can do it through that way. But just make sure it's going to the people that are in need. And if you can't do it that way, Crisis Aid, we've actually got an office in Mirpur, in Mirpur Share.
Okay.
There's a storeroom and an office. It's full of tents, full of blankets and these, what do you call them? These waterproof tarpaulins.
Right.
And what we're doing, we're going out to the poor people, we're giving them cards, and they're coming into the office with the cards, and then we give them what's written on the card. So we actually inspect and see that these are really people in need, and then we give them the card.
Right.
So you could either support us, you could support other charities that are here, you can support families who you've got there. But you have to support, guys. You know, these people are desperate. They've lost everything. Imagine yourself now,
Absolutely.
If your house was brought down to rubble. What on earth would you do? Do you think, alhamdulillah, we're fortunate in England, we'll be able to, the council will rehouse us. But what if you were in a country where, you know, the government's not going to rehouse you? How would you feel? What would you do? What would you need? You need some Muslim brothers and sisters to come and help you.
Jazakallah, Abdul Qadir, brother. Akhi, I'd love to speak to you a bit longer, but unfortunately, I've got to end it there. Hopefully, are you there much longer? Are you heading back to Pakistan, to England soon?
I'm there for another week. I'll be back in UK, inshallah, if all goes well, next week. I'm just training our team to make sure that they're able to reach the poor people, do the work properly. Once that's all over and done with, I'll be back inshallah next week.
Barakallah feek, inshallah. I will be repeating your message of support that we need from our listeners, inshallah ta'ala, throughout the program. And inshallah, we'll speak to you when you're back in the UK to get an update, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, brother Abdul Qadir. Jazakallah khair. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, listeners, that was Akhi Abdul Qadir from a Crisis Aid out in Pakistan, giving us an update on the situation in Pakistan. This is following the earthquake in late September, and of course, as Brother Abdul Qadir was saying, I think the impression for a lot of people here is the fact that it wasn't that bad. But as Abdul Qadir is telling us, the situation on the ground is quite the contrary. And I'll be repeating that message a little later, that we do need more support. Those of you that are connected and got, you know, connections to Mirpur, you know, try to use your direct connections in Mirpur to support the poor, support the ones who have lost their homes, lost everything, inshallah ta'ala. We'll come on to that later. But you know, as I was saying earlier, I want to cover another brief story before I go into the break for the Maghrib Azan and the Maghrib Salah. And that is this horrific story that's you know, come out of Bangladesh over the last couple of days, right? Now, some of you may not have actually followed this story, right? But let me just give you a quick introduction. Then I'm going to be speaking to brother Mizanur Rashid, and this is with regards to a murder of a brother called Abrar Fahad, who was a student, right? Who was a student, a very capable student in Bangladesh, right, in one of the top universities, who had written a post on Facebook against this river deal agreed by Hasina during her visit to India, and he was subsequently tortured to death by the Awami League's student wing individuals, and that is the claim, and that is what is the case. Let's go straight to Brother Mizanur Rashid, who I'm sure will be able to shed a lot more light than I will be able to. I've got the bio of Brother Mizanur Rashid here: civilian and commercial mediator, political and legal advisor. Brother Mizanur Rashid, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Friday Night Live. Tell us what's been happening and give us an update on this case of Abrar Fahad, Akhi.
Thank you very much, brother, for inviting me. This is, as you just mentioned, it's a horrific event, which obviously you mentioned happened last week.
Yeah.
In Bangladesh. That's happened in the dormitory of Bangladesh, one of the best universities.
Absolutely.
Called, it's called, the short name is BUET. It is an engineering and technology university.
Yes.
By the way, the point that occurrence is what I would say is not an isolated event. It's like the whole picture of Bangladesh.
Yes. Yes.
The governing party trying to brutally,
silence, yes.
Other voices.
Yes.
Similarly, each political party trying to sideline any dissent.
Yes.
I have read the message, the Facebook post that Abrar Fahim posted on his page.
Right.
It is just a concern. It's not a blaming game. He did not blame anyone.
Right. Yes.
What he raised, it is the common concern of 16 crore, that 100 and so million people's concern.
In Bangladesh, correct.
Governing party is very much in love with India.
Yeah.
India is
yes.
very much in hatred of the Muslim within India. Kashmir and in Bangladesh. So it is a fair concern of
yes.
people of Bangladesh that the government of Bangladesh has agreed to give the natural gas, which Bangladesh, its vast, numbers of people don't have it.
Yes.
And the water, India depriving Bangladesh of its water for the last 60 years.
Yes.
India not giving water when we need it,
yes.
and India giving it plenty when we don't need it, thereby flooding the whole country. So in that situation, Bangladesh, offering some sort of deal to India to please them, with
yes.
gas and water, it's hurting country's interest. So any student like Abrar
yes.
would raise their concern, but the problem is it is a schizophrenic, mentality of the government that any dissent would threaten their power.
No, absolutely, Brother Mizanur Rashid. Mashallah, you've shared a lot of information there. So, of course, the agreement that you're referring to is on the 5th of October 2019. Sheikh Hasina, she signed several agreements with India, and you're right, quite right. I've got some details here. It's almost like subjugation to India, and I can understand where you're coming from. That it would be a valid concern for so many people within Bangladesh in terms of why are we siding with India. But that's one thing, right? Which is
within Awami League, there are people within
Awami League. Agreed, right? But the case here, as I was saying earlier, Bangladesh is not alone. You have it in Pakistan, you have it in India, you had it in Europe, you have it in the Middle East, where you have political parties, and then they also have their unofficial gundas, right? They have the thugs, right, that are associated with those parties which operate, all right, tacitly, explicitly or implicitly with the approval of these political parties, right, to achieve their political ends. This, and then on the one hand they're claiming to be democracy, and on the other hand this is what we're seeing. Okay, so the response has been people on the streets.
In one word,
yeah,
it is thuggery. It is
thuggery, absolutely.
So the point is, that Bangladesh, one of the top university, is like Bangladesh's Oxford.
Cambridge, exactly. Yes.
Dhaka University.
Yes.
The Dhaka University's elected vice president.
Yes.
Mr. Noor,
yes.
he just said last week on TV that he was subjugated to torture 8 times.
Absolutely.
Being the vice president of the university, subjugated to torture. I mean, real torture. They torture.
So this is my point. Last question to you, brother Mizanur Rashid, because we're running out of time. We have to go for Maghrib Azan. I mean, this is what we see in Pakistan. We see in Karachi, for example. I mean, it's become a lot better, right? But the MQM, I'm going to be covering this story later on. The MQM, Altaf Hussain is sitting here in London. He will incite violence in Karachi, and suddenly you will see, because of his incitement, there's violence been happening in Karachi, right? So we see this, right? That they can hold to ransom anyone what they like. This is the so-called democracy that we're seeing in India, we're seeing it in Pakistan, we're seeing it in Bangladesh. What are the people saying, and what do the people want, Akhi?
Look, those people do not have choice.
Yeah.
The people like Abrar go silent. Every single university, I myself visited some of it, every single university in its dorms, people who have the voice, they are beaten so that their voice, they are afraid so that they don't speak.
Yeah.
Similarly, people of Bangladesh were beaten, people of Pakistan or India, wherever you say, they were beaten so badly by their action and by their behavior, so badly that they are fed up of talking about a proper democracy.
Subhanallah.
They've been deceived, they are...
Right. Brother Mizanur Rashid, we gotta unfortunately leave it there. I'm wondering whether that is the form of democracy that you're only going to see in the Indian subcontinent, unfortunately. But I'd love to speak to you in a future date, inshallah ta'ala. But unfortunately, we gotta go leave it there. Jazakallah khair, brother Mizanur Rashid, who joined us to give us his perspective on the death of Abrar Fahad in Bangladesh. I want to just quickly reach out to my listeners. 01582481822. I'm sure a lot of my listeners are from the Bangladeshi community. What do you make of that story? 07779481822 for your SMS, WhatsApp messages. I want to hear from our listeners this evening. We're going to go into a commercial break. I'll be back after that. Until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
You're listening to an Inspire FM podcast, making available our popular programs from our daily broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Friday Night Live with me, Hafiz Shaban, on this Friday evening, 11th of October 2019. We are broadcasting live from the studios of Inspire FM, 105.1 FM, 01582481822, 01582481822, 07779481822, 07779481822. Now, I have to be honest, I do expect to see a lot of SMS and WhatsApp messages come in, and I also perhaps expect a call or two. Maybe I'm being a bit too optimistic, but the last two stories we just covered, right, I think they should have touched the sensitivities of a lot of my listeners, right? Especially the last story, which is the story of Bangladesh. Now, I've got a huge listenership from Bangladesh, right? Here, based in Luton. What do you make of this thuggery that we're hearing of in Bangladesh? The Awami League, right? The Sheikh Hasina's Awami League. We're hearing with regards to her deal with India and what a lot of people are labeling as subservience to India with regards to the deals that she signed up with regards to gas, with regards to waterways, and the likes. And then we're seeing thuggery on top of that, and anyone who even dares to raise a concern is battered to death on a campus, in a dormitory at the top university of Bangladesh. That is horrific news. That is Sheikh Hasina's Awami League, Bangladesh democracy we're seeing in Bangladesh. Your thoughts, your views, 01582481822. Speak to me. Good old people of Luton, Sheffield, Nottingham, Derby, Peterborough, wherever you may be, 07779481822. Speak to me, call me, SMS, WhatsApp. I'll get your thoughts onto the airwaves and share them with my listenership also, right? We're going to be moving on to the next story. Before I move that on to the next story, very quick reminder from Brother Abdul Qadir, crisis aid out in Pakistan, out in Mirpur at the moment, as is Brother Bashara I was mentioning earlier, who we may be able to speak to later on this evening. But nevertheless, the Kashmir earthquake update is that the Pakistan, the people of Mirpur require your help. Don't forget them in your du'as, but also don't forget them in your relief efforts and in your campaigning and in those funds. If you've got any contact in Mirpur, you know people in Mirpur, and you can get your assistance, your aid to them directly, then do that. Alright, we're going to be moving on to the next story now, inshallah. I believe we have got our next panelist on the line, inshallah ta'ala. And it's another, I don't know how to term it really, but another story of one country going into another for its personal interest by the sounds of it. But let's go on and speak to, and we are going to be speaking to Brother Hassan Abdullah, who's a diplomatic correspondent at TRT World. Hassan Abdullah, are you with me? Hafiz Shaban, Friday Night Live.
Yes, Brother Hafiz Shaban, I'm with you.
Fantastic. Welcome to Friday Night Live, Brother Hassan Abdullah. Just to introduce this story to my listeners. Now, this is, when we were coining this story together, we were talking about preparations complete for Syria military action, says Turkey. But of course, last couple of days, we have seen Turkey entering into Syria. Now, before I go into the details and get your thoughts on this, of course, you're probably based in Turkey, so you can give me an update. What is happening on the ground in Turkey, and what is the media saying, what is Erdogan and his party saying, and what is the general opinion from the people of Turkey, right? I've got a couple of snippets I want to just mention to yourself. So I see here that Erdogan has been threatening to order Turkish military into the northeastern Syria 8 times since January 2018, and a number of warnings have come late July and early August of this year. And I think there's been a lot of correspondence between Turkey and America. Turkey then moves into northern Syria on Wednesday after US pulls its troops out of the area, and the critics have in effect said that it was a green light given to Turkey, given to Erdogan, to say that okay, it's over to you. And of course, Erdogan has long been saying he wants to create a so-called safe zone running for this 480 kilometers along the Syrian side of the border, and it continues, right? And we've seen the military operations, and we've already seen the international humanitarian organizations start to call out foul play and start to call out the humanitarian catastrophe and disaster that's about to befall the people of the northeastern area of Syria. Now, the question I want to put to you, Brother Hassan Abdullah, is this now Turkey itself becoming a tyrant? What's happening? Help me out.
Well, just to contextualize, what's happening basically is that there's an organization called the YPG operating out of Syria, which Turkey says and the US admits is the Syrian branch of the PKK. Now, PKK is recognized as a terrorist organization by Turkey, the United States, and US. It's been waging a war against the state of Turkey. It's been a separatist organization, and it's killed about 40,000 people in Turkey over the last 30 years.
But hang on, Brother Hassan Abdullah. I hear that point that you're making, but there hasn't been any real conflict over the last, I don't know, for a good while, has it? This is historical, what you're telling me.
No, it's been ongoing. I mean, if you look at the latest incidents in Suruc and other parts, police stations continue to be targeted. There have been targeted assassinations of political figures in Turkey. So it's not something which is, which only happened in the past. It's something which is continuing.
Yeah.
What has changed is over the last 17 years, there have been, for example, attempts to talk to the PKK. There have been attempts to try and find a political solution, but that collapsed. I mean, it depends how detailed you want me to go into this, but it's important to contextualize, because unfortunately what happens is that the mainstream Western media tends to frame things according to its own interest.
No, absolutely. I think let's be fair, Brother Hassan. I think any national media from any country would do that, right? So the national media is always going to try to paint, especially the ones that are associated with a link to the government, are going to, try to toe that kind of particular agenda. But my point here is, I think we're well familiar with PKK, and you're right. There's been a long battle between the PKK and of course it's been labelled as for some time now as a terrorist organization by the US, by Turkey, and so many other organizations. But this is not new. So you're saying this is not new, this has been ongoing, but yet Turkey hasn't taken the military action that all of a sudden now it takes after America pulls out its troops and Turkey goes in. So the fact is, it's been happening for a long time, but Turkey hasn't taken any military option, but it takes the military option now all of a sudden. That's my point. What's changed there?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
Just to correct some facts there.
Okay.
Turkey's already taken 2 military operations. Turkey's conducted Operation Olive Branch in northwestern Syria around Afrin.
Right.
That was opposed by the United States and other stakeholders.
Yeah.
Turkey's also conducted Operation Olive Branch. So first of all, if you're looking at the last 2 years, this is the 3rd operation.
Right.
So it's not something that's happened all of a sudden.
Right.
Turkey's been talking about a corridor of terror extending from northeastern Syria to northwestern Syria, where it says that the YPG has been trying to create a canton, as the YPG calls it.
Yeah.
Extending all the way to the border with Iraq. So it's not something that's new.
Okay.
Let's be clear about the fact.
All right. So what is Turkey trying to achieve, right? So now we're referencing this 300 odd miles, right, of the so-called safe zone, right? This SDF-held territory, right, to demilitarize it and for Turkey to have its own presence of its own troops there, so it can create a so-called safe zone, right? Firstly, I want to ask you, what is Turkey trying to achieve, right? So is it trying to get rid of the so-called YPG or PKK or whatever acronyms that we use, and itself, ensure its own military presence in that region? And B, will that really solve the problem of, the Kurds and the Kurdish, interests? Will that really solve the problem, or will it just push it away further into a different area?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, what is Turkey trying to do? Well, the Turkish government says that, first of all, there's a security concern. The southern border of Turkey meets Syria. From there, there's been logistical support and logistical cooperation between the PKK operating in Turkey and the YPG operating in Syria. Now, what's happening is that before we even move to the safe zone, Turkey wants to push the YPG away from its borders.
Yeah.
Then it wants to create a safe zone in that area. Now, currently, if you know, Turkey is hosting about 3.6 million Syrian refugees.
Yeah.
Turkey wants to settle many of those refugees in the safe zone, because obviously there's an economic factor for Turkey as well.
Yeah.
For example, we've heard numerous times from President Erdogan saying that Turkey has spent about $40 billion on the Syrian refugees so far. So the second issue is the settlement of the Syrian refugees in that area.
Yeah.
Now, from a political point of view, the reason Turkey wants to push YPG away and prevent the creation of a Kurdish canton under the YPG/PKK is because the PKK's separatist struggle. What happens is if it creates a statelet there, separates it from Syria, so if there's any sort of disintegration of Syria, that could have a fallout or blowback effect for Turkey.
Yeah.
So, there are very straight political science reasons for these actions.
All right, Hassan.
The moral aspect of it, that's a different factor.
Yeah, no, I agree. But you know what? That's something that's bugging me, right? There's something that I don't understand. Help me understand this, Hassan Abdullah, right? That historically, right, whether it's the Kurds, whether it's the Syrians, whether it's the Turks, right, they all live together under one umbrella, under one rule. I mean, you show it fantastically in your dramatized series of Ertugrul, right? That how all of these Muslims live together under one rule, right? So why can't Turkey once again be the melting pot where the Kurds, Syrians, Palestinians, and the Turks are all living together as Muslims? You're all Muslims. You're of one faith, one identity. What is the problem with saying that these are our brothers of Syria, or whether it's the Kurds, they're our brothers, let's embrace them under one, one system of Islam, which we all believe in and we can all embrace and we can all live under. Why can't we? Am I being too utopian here? Am I being too idealistic? Why can't Turkey do that?
No, you have a good point there. I mean, if, any Muslim, I don't think any Muslim would dispute the fact that the rule under Islam, the caliphate that Muslims have had for hundreds of years, that's where they had power, that's where they had unity of command and so forth. But let's not forget the reality that since the Westphalian system was imposed on the world, that's not the case with Muslims. So, I'm on the one hand, there is the normative side of what Muslims want, rule under Islam and the rejection of secular ideals and nationalism and so forth. And then on the other side is the reality of what we actually have on the ground. You see what I mean? So the reality on the ground is that the whole world obviously is organized along the Westphalian system. That includes the 52 or so nation states. I mean, whether you talk about the Sykes-Picot or you talk about the Duran line, there are artificial constructions known as nation states and so forth.
Correct.
But that doesn't change the reality on the ground that you are now talking about in dealing with nation states. So, we've got like several arguments you would need to address there.
All right. I want to come back to Turkey's kind of position and pivoting as a quite a strategic player in the bigger scheme of things, right? But before I come on to that, I mean there is this obvious international humanitarian issue. Well, forget about the international, but just the humanitarian issue here that I understand where you're coming from. I mean this separatism and you can keep continuing that. I mean there's in terms of what's happening there, and I can understand potentially what you're telling me and where you're coming from, but nevertheless there's a lot of innocent civilians here, right? And this military offensive, no doubt, is going to have an impact and displace a lot of people. What's Turkey doing to reassure the ordinary person who's not part and parcel of this YPG or the PKK or an activist within these organizations? What is it doing to win their hearts and minds and ensure their human lives?
Well, two components there. First of all, what is Turkey doing? Now, we're hearing repeatedly from the Turkish Defense Ministry and even from the Turkish President saying that they're carrying out surgical strikes at the moment. They're largely carrying out intelligence-based operations where specific targets are being attacked. Now, for example, the Turkish military has told us that during the drone surveillance, what they've discovered is that many of the YPG shells have been fired from houses where they've spotted women and children around. So they're saying that...
That sounds like America to me. That sounds like America and the Israeli media to me, Hassan Abdullah. No disrespect, but I mean, how many times have we heard that from the Israelis? How many times have we heard that from the Americans, right? They say that all the time about the Palestinians, and that's an excuse to do whatever they want to do, right?
Well, let's be a bit realistic. I think Muslims have a special obligation to be more realistic. That does happen in wartime. I mean, Muslim organizations and Muslim groups have been mingling in population. So, if you want to discuss the positive side of things, like the hard facts, as opposed to any normative discourse, then you need to face the reality that Muslim groups have been doing it as well. That's the reality of how wars work. There is, if you study Sun Tzu, you find that in asymmetrical warfare, that's one of the most fundamental things you do. I'm not talking about the rights and wrongs. I'm stating
correct realities.
That's something which does happen. I mean, Hamas members do live within the normal Palestinian population. I'm not talking about the rights and wrongs of Israel's action or what. I'm just stating the fact here. So let's not try and claim that very high supposed moral ground based on fantasies or on just some sort of fetishized thinking. There's a reality in the world. In conflicts work a certain way. It doesn't matter whether Muslims are involved Christians or Jews or whoever is involved.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's be factual about things.
I mean, almost, Hassan, you lead me on to my next point, which is, this kind of guerrilla warfare or asymmetrical, kind of warfare that you alluded to earlier, right? Because that's what's going to happen here, right? I mean, you saw Saudi in Yemen, and you've seen that they've not been able to achieve any real tangible result for many, many years, right? We've seen this, the Israelis in Palestine not being able to achieve it. We've seen India in Kashmir not being able to achieve it. They've got 700,000 military troops in that area, such a small geography area, but we know military might doesn't win it. Even historically, this is my point, melting point. It is, you need to win those people over as opposed to going and bombing these people over. I mean, that would be my perspective to say, hey, hang on, isn't there an alternative that we can actually leverage here as opposed to trying to just bomb these people into submission?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I think it's important for us not to conflate different conflicts and just try and create like a one-size-fits-all thing.
Right.
So, for example, the conflict in Yemen has its own dynamics.
Correct.
The conflict in Kashmir has its own dynamics.
Yeah.
And let me point out, because you've repeated it a couple of times, that I'm actually speaking in my capacity as a student of strategic studies and international relations.
Right.
I'm not necessarily speaking on behalf of Turkey or TRT World. Let me just be very clear about that.
Fine. Yeah.
So I'm trying to speak facts from an academic point of view.
Good. Yeah.
So you have to look at different conflicts in their specific context.
Yeah.
If you're saying, for example, that in Yemen the conflict has been Saudi Arabia has been failing, yes, that's true. But for example, if you look at the conflicts like Operation Olive Branch, it didn't stretch for years.
Right.
It had limited objectives,
right,
and those limited objectives were achieved from a military point of view.
Okay.
So let's not do like a one-size-fits-all.
No, fine. I think that's a fair enough criticism, Brother Hassan, which is fine. Tell me, Brother Hassan, are you actually based out of Istanbul, Ankara? Where are you in Turkey? And what's the opinion on the ground with the average individuals? I mean, I get that you're from this strategic international relations academic background. Hopefully you're mingling in with the average Turkish individual. What is the spectrum of opinion that you're finding on the streets of Turkey?
Right. Regarding where I'm based, I'm mainly based in Ankara, but obviously I travel around.
Right. Yeah.
Only this morning I returned from the Turkey-Syria border.
Okay.
As far as the general opinion is concerned, going by the statistics, it seems that the overwhelming majority in Turkey are supportive of this operation. But there are, of course, those people in Turkey who are opposed to this. If you look at the political parties, all the mainstream political parties in Turkey are supporting this operation, except for one party, which is called the HDP.
Right.
So, in terms of percentage, I can't give you a scientific figure, but it seems that more than 85% of the population is probably supportive of this operation.
Yeah. And okay, all right. And I want to move on to, of course, Turkey's kind of strategic position within the region and also internationally, because there's been a lot that's been written with regards to a bit of a rift between Turkey and the United States of America. Of course, we saw a great power competition with China and Russia, with regards to vying over Turkey from the United States. We saw some deals, Russian air defense system, which Turkey went ahead and brought, right? Has that kind of played on the minds of the Americans, and they've said, it's better to have Turkey as a partner than allowing Turkey to kind of side towards Russia? To what extent is that playing a role, and what do you think will happen as a result of this military action? Do you think the position of Turkey it becomes stronger internationally with regards to America, with regards to Europe, or do you think it's going to be opposite? Because we've heard a bit of rhetoric from Trump to say, all right, I'm going to make Turkey pay for this, right, if they cross the so-called line. What's your political reading into this?
Well, if you look at the response from the Western countries, it seems that there is quite strong opposition. For example, we've seen Western European countries who've announced that they're not going to sell weapons to Turkey, and we've seen the reaction from the
surprise on that. They'll continue to sell their weapons to Saudi, but they won't sell them to Turkey, right?
Yes, I mean you can talk about the sort of dual standards there.
Yeah.
So that's obviously one factor. So initially, for example, while there is Western pressure, Turkish economy may face some brunt. It may suffer a bit. But if Turkey manages to hold and continue with this operation and reach the limited strategic objectives that it's set out to attain, then in the midterm, Turkey may emerge as more assertive, and it may emerge as a strong political actor. So economically, we know that Turkey has been facing challenges over the last couple of years. But obviously, Turkey is still a member of the G20. It's the world's 17th largest economy. Militarily, it's cutting down reliance on the West. So at the moment, around 70-75% of Turkey's arms procurement needs are met locally.
Right. And then, of course, you got Russia. You got Russia. I mean, there's plenty of people who are prepared to gun you to your teeth and continue because it's good business for them. And Russia and China are amongst those who will step in if America and Europe step out. But very quickly, I've got 2 minutes and I've got two quick questions I want to ask you. I mean, what does it mean, Hassan, for Syria's civil war, right? Is it, some commentators are saying is now entering a new phase, and don't be surprised if so-called Bashar Assad, I don't know if he's lying away dormant somewhere, but this is happening in his backyard. Is he going to remain silent with regards to the actions of Turkey? What's your view on that? And then last, a comment that I've heard from some of the people that I've spoken to is that, where was Turkey? Where was Erdogan? He talks about this great Islamic leadership of Turkey. Where was he when Syria was calling out for help, and the Muslims of Syria were calling out for help for the last 5 years, and there was no military intervention from Turkey? Where was he for Rohingya? Where has he been for the Palestinian Muslims? And he talks the talk, but he's never militarily interfered. But here he's gone ahead militarily interfered when it's to his own interest. Very quickly, if you can just address those two questions in a minute and a half.
Okay, regarding the first question, because of the intervention from Russia and Iran and the indecisiveness of the United States, I believe that, and my assessment is that Bashar al-Assad's position has actually strengthened over the last 2.5 years or so.
Yes.
Regarding the second question,
but has it what's that strength going to result in with now Turkey's incursion into Syria? Is that what's your analysis on that?
That depends on a number of factors. For example, it depends on the position PYD adopts vis-a-vis Bashar al-Assad. So, for example, does PYD, which is the political branch of YPG, feel that it has to talk to Bashar al-Assad? That would give Bashar al-Assad more political legitimacy, and it would give Bashar al-Assad more space to maneuver.
Right. Okay. And second question, very quickly.
We have time for the second question.
Yeah, you got 30 seconds.
The second one, there are certain things people want, especially Muslims. Muslims would like to see their nation states intervene in conflicts, but that's not how the Westphalian system works. That's how the Islamic system may work, but it's not how the Westphalian system works, where countries and their policies are supposed to be driven by national interest. National interest is defined rationally, primarily by economic interest, not by moral standing and so. I proposed last time as well, maybe we should do a program on that, like a detailed program in which we can compare perhaps the Islamic system with the contemporary world order.
Fantastic. Great suggestions, Brother Hassan Abdullah, and it's always lovely speaking to you. And on that note, unfortunately, I got to end it there. Brother Hassan Abdullah, strategic studies and an international relations academic plus diplomatic correspondent at TRT World. Fantastic having you this evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Right, listeners, that was Hassan Abdullah. Jazakallah khair for your messages. We're going to be going into commercial break. Brother Hamza Atiq, Jazakallah for your message. I've just tuned in. Great show. I'm glad you covered the situation in Bangladesh. I really want to hear your views, Akhi. What do you think what's happening in Bangladesh? What do you think about this particular horrific incident, right? I want to hear you. If you can speak to me, 01582 481 822, or send me another WhatsApp message on 07779 481 822. What do you think is happening, and what do you think should happen next, right? We're going to go into commercial break. When we come back, I'll tell you what we're going to be discussing next. Until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Atif Nawaz and you're listening to an Inspire FM podcast.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Friday Night Live with me, Hafiz Shaban, on this Friday evening on the 11th of October 2019. as always, broadcasting live from Inspire FM studios here in Luton and also across our sister stations nationally. Wow, it's already 1 hour of the show has already gone by. That's the beauty of the show. I mean, you don't even realize, and the time just simply flies by as you're discussing some of these very topical conversations and discussions that we've been having over the course of the last hour. And of course, I was discussing with the brother Hassan Abdullah from Turkey the current situation between Turkey and the northern parts of Syria. What do you make of that conversation? Were you following the conversation? Are you following the events at the moment in between Turkey and Syria and the Kurdish? I mean, the question that I posed to Brother Hassan Abdullah is, you know, Islam and this whole region was a melting pot where the Kurds, the Syrians, the Palestinians, the Lebanese, the Turks, they all lived together in peace under one system. Why can't we do that again today? Well, why is we're having all of these problems amongst Muslims, right? And now we're seeing Turkey go and go into this particular region, and we're seeing the troubles that are going to unfold as a result of that. I've got a couple of questions that I've raised there with Hassan Abdullah, but you know what? They're just my thoughts. I want to hear from you, my listeners. 01582 481822 is the number here in the studio. And of course, before that, very quickly, just a reminder, we were getting the Kashmir earthquake update, and a reminder there, as the brother Abdul Qadir mentioned, from Crisis Aid out in Mirpur at the moment. Mirpur and the people of Pakistan and the victims of the earthquake, they need your support and they need your help, right? So that was a clear message from Abdul Qadir. And then we were also discussing the death of Abrar Fahad in Bangladesh, which has caused outcry. Incredible stuff that's been happening there. And Hamza Atiq has messaged in to say he's glad that we've covered the situation in Bangladesh. But you know what? I want to hear more from our listeners. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear what's happening in Bangladesh, what's happening in Pakistan, and what's happening in Turkey, right? We're going to now move on to our next story. And this actually caught my attention this week, right? And I don't know if this caught your attention. Indeed, if you've actually even followed this news item, right? But it was covered locally in some of the local press. Watch out for this next news story, right? So I want you to pay attention to this. The headlines were 21 Luton schools, right? That's right, 21 Luton schools have been rated inadequate, or they've been rated that they require improvement by Ofsted, right? Now, if that number was 5 or 6 or 4 or 3 or 9, perhaps it wouldn't have quite caught my attention. 3 or 4, I mean, there's always going to be a few that are going to be required to play catch-up. But the fact that it was 21 kind of caught my attention, right? And I thought, look, we need to cover this story. What's happening here? Are the people of Luton getting a bad education for their children? Legitimate questions. So I looked into it a little further. These schools were all rated, 21 of these schools were all rated as inadequate or requires improvement. Inadequate, I believe, if I got my facts right, is right at the bottom of the rating when it comes to Ofsted, right? And requires improvement is slightly above. And of course, the standard should be good, or it should be outstanding, if I remember correctly, right? And of course, Ofsted, whilst it serves its purpose, it's also known to be a bit of a political, it's recently, been accused of being a bit of a political entity, right? It's not supposed to be, of course, but there have been accusations there. And the legitimate question that I want to ask to my panelists today is this Ofsted being awkward? Is there a legitimate concern? Is there a question of resourcing? What are the schools doing about it? What is the council doing about it? Because I think the people of Luton deserve some answers here. If 21 of the schools you're sending your children to are being rated inadequate or requires improvement, it should raise your eyebrows, because you're all paying taxes. A lot of you are paying taxes, and you're sending your schools, and all of us should be able to, be convinced and be comfortable that our children are getting the best in terms of an education system, right? Now, a last point before I introduce my panelists is a number of Islamic faith schools are part of this list. Now, I'm not going to name and shame. I'm not going to name any of the schools. It's public information, so it is available. And we've tried to reach out to most of the schools to get some kind of statements to say, okay, hey guys, what's going on? Fair enough. Maybe these reports are a couple of months old, a couple of years old, and you've had some time and opportunity to put an action plan together. What's been happening? Because some of these ratings are from 2016, some are 2019, which is fair enough, is very recent. 2019. All right, only one is from 2016. So let's introduce our panelists. Let's ask these questions. Let's see if we can get some answers. All right. And meantime, have a think about what I've just said. 01582 481 822 0779 481 822. All right. So firstly, in the studio, I want to introduce, inshallah ta'ala, is Councillor Mahmood Hussain. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, Councillor Mahmood Hussain, and welcome to Friday Night Live. Welcome to Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum, first of all, and thank you for inviting me to.
All right, fantastic. Great to have you. On the phone, I've got Brother Abdul Wadud Ahmed, who is a senior team leader for the Olive Tree Primary School. Assalamu alaikum, Abdul Wadud, and Jazakallah for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam.
Excellent. And I'm going to let Brother Hisham take a couple of deep breaths, because he's just joined me here in the studio, and get some water if he can, inshallah. But I also have Brother Hisham Parker, who's a governor for one of the local schools, who's also joined me here in the studio, right? And Brother Hisham may have missed my introduction in terms of just setting the scene, what's been happening. You know, are we getting a bad education here in Luton? In Luton, 21 schools, right, being rated inadequate, requires improvement. It is a bit of a concern for me as a parent. Let me go straight to Councillor Mahmood Hussain. You heard me for the last 5 minutes ranting away here. What do you make of it? Is it Ofsted being just too critical, or is it the council failing the local residents?
Yeah. Can I just make it very clear?
Yes.
That as far as the inadequate school, there is none of the local authority, the academies, free schools, foundation school are inadequate.
Right.
The 4 schools that are inadequate are private schools, right? And not all of them are faith schools.
Okay.
So let's let that, there is no myth. Right. We are the only local authority in the eastern region that does not have a single inadequate school. No, yes, we do have a school that require improvement for different reasons, but certainly not inadequate. Right. And I, for one, is the first person that would be critical if we do have an inadequate school, because I think children deserve a good education, and an inadequate school does not provide that.
Right, because I was going to say, I mean, just because of the fact that we haven't got inadequate schools or a number of them in the local council doesn't mean that we're happy with requires improvement, because there's 21. Like I said, if it was 3 or 4, it would have probably slipped my eye, but that caught my attention.
It is not 21 from the local authority, as I said to you, that there are 5 maintained schools and about 5 academies, which require improvement, and we are working very closely, particularly with the maintained school and the academies, through the regional commissioner to try to improve standards. And you only have to look at the results in Key Stage 2, where these schools, even though they are in RI, they have all made improvements in maths and English.
Right, Councillor, we'll come on to the other things that you're alluding to, but let answer the question: is it Ofsted here being too critical, or is it the fact that we know for a number of years that the cutting, the spending has been cut, right? There's been austerity measures nationally, even locally. We know that there's been cuts in spending, and provisions and resources being made available. Is it a case of resourcing? Is it a case of Ofsted, or is it just a case of incapable schools and management? What is it?
I think that the first bit is the resources. Yes, there has been a major cuts in resources. All schools are going through a very difficult budgetary problems. The government has, on the spending review, have said that they will increase the spending. We will wait and see. But for since 2010, schools have had a lot of money taken out of their budget So that does have an impact. But that does not mean to say the schools can't do better.
Right.
And my challenge to every school is, and I will not accept this, that it is deprivation or English as an additional language, that the excuse could be made that the standards can't go up.
Right,
if Denby Primary School, Denby High School can do it, so can every other school in this town.
Absolutely. All right. So on that note, let me go to my next guest here in the studio, Brother Hisham Parker. Hopefully you've been able to get a bit of a breather and some water. What's your view on this report, Brother Hisham, right? And of course you're a governor in one of the schools, right? Locally, so you're quite actively involved. You've been actively and been a strong voice in terms of Ofsted and some of the policies of Ofsted in some of the schools. A number of faith schools have been included in this. So we're having a general discussion. I don't want to home into a particular school or two, right? So generally, what's your analysis on and what's your feel on it? Is it Ofsted? Is it a school issue? Where's the problem here?
I think trying to simplify it to one item would be oversimplistic, actually. It is a combination of all these factors, as the councillor mentioned as well. But having been through a number of Ofsteds, seeing different frameworks, this particular framework, or the most recent framework, which is now changed this year actually, has been very result-driven. Okay, so focused on outcomes of learning in a mathematical and statistical sense for the children, and less focused on other areas of the curriculum, on its breadth, or what it's trying to achieve, etc. We do have a problem in Luton.
But isn't that a good thing then, if it's outcome-based oriented?
Yes and no. Yes and no, right? Why I say no, in the sense that Luton, we do have a problem in Luton with results. Not in all schools, admittedly, but overall, Luton averages are below the national average, very clearly.
Right.
Okay, why is that? People may say it's English as additional language. People may say it's a problem attracting the right staff to attend Luton schools. What I will tell you is an excellent head teacher makes for an excellent school.
All right, excellent. Okay, let me go on to Brother Abdul Wadud, who's patiently on the line, listening to all of this conversation happening here. Now, you know, another thing that caught my attention, Abdul Wadud, was the number of faith schools, right, that were in this list, right? So, like I said, I don't want to literally name all of the faith schools, but it suffices to say there were 5 faith schools, Islamic faith schools, right, that all have been categorized as requiring improvement, with one, labeled inadequate. Now, you're also representing and from one of those Islamic schools, right? What's the issue here? Is it resourcing? Is it Ofsted being awkward? Firstly, what is it? And secondly, what's your game plan to get the house in order, Brother Abdul Wadud?
Okay, I guess from our perspective, it's really quite simple, to be honest. Being an independent school, we position ourselves in a situation whereby we choose to run a school based on fees that come in from parents and maybe other income streams. And based on that, we establish what resources we need to then meet the necessary Ofsted standards.
Right.
And inshallah, from there, obviously provide an adequate education. So from our perspective, it's as simple as that. Now, where we are at the moment as a school...
Sorry. When you say Abdul Wadud, when you say as simple as that, that surely means that the fees and the resources that are coming in are satisfactory to allow you to meet the targets being set by Ofsted. But clearly, their report saying that it isn't the case.
Yes. So
where's the gap?
So the challenge for us is to make sure that we have a sound enough business model and sound enough infrastructure to meet the standards. So where we've fallen short, I believe, if I was to be brutally honest, is that in our particular case, I think there's been a bit of mismanagement with regards to the school over the last few years.
Right.
There's a new team in place, and that team's been in place for just over 18 months. And in that period of time, we've gone from being inadequate, meeting 2/3 of the independent school standards, to now being a required improvement and meeting close to all of the independent school standards. So we've made massive improvements in the past past year, 12 to 18 months. So we're really a growing school at the moment. We're on the upward trajectory.
Right.
From our perspective as well, the requirements of Ofsted, at times they can be difficult. They can be a bit harsh. But in the main, to be honest, it's there to provide a good, healthy education and a safe environment for the kids. So we embrace it.
Right.
And we're happy to kind of follow suit.
Right. I mean, it sounds positive in terms of what you're describing to me. It requires improvement, of course. It's still not satisfactory. I think we'll all agree the fact that we need to be targeting that next band which is good, and ultimately, if we can get there, the outstanding. Of course, the key thing is providing a good education to our youngsters, our children, and Islam really emphasizes that. I mean, a wider question for you. I mean, 5 faith schools in this kind of bracket. Any particular reason for that?
Yeah, I think, I'll be honest with you, it's quite difficult. You put me on the spot to speak on behalf of others.
No, I'm just a general comment. You don't have to, I'm not naming anyone.
No. I think just as a general comment, and I hope the other schools that are listening in, they forgive me for saying this, but I think sometimes, as faith schools, sometimes the way we approach certain things, the expectations that we set ourselves, the standards that we set ourselves, maybe are a little bit different to what they should be. And I think what we need to do is we need to raise the bar a little bit.
Okay.
We need to have different expectations and standards of ourselves.
Right.
And inshallah, as Muslims, we should be aspiring for the best.
Yeah.
Not for bottom or second-rate service. We should be providing a first-rate service.
All right, that's enough of grilling the faith-based schools. Let's come back to the studio and let's come back to Brother Hisham and Councillor Mahmoud Hussain, right? So let me go to Hisham, right? So Hisham, what does it take, right, to be that that good, right, kind of bracket school, right? What does it take to be that outstanding school, right? Now, I'm not going to mention names, but my son, right, goes to an Islamic-based school, of course not in Luton, in London, and that school year on year is an outstanding category. It's got the category, or the band of outstanding by Ofsted, right? Of course, their fees are a lot higher than the fees locally. I mean, they're almost double, if not, almost 2.5 times the fees locally. Is that the answer to a lot of our problems, do you think? Or is it bigger than that, right? And I'm not just talking about faith-based schools. I'm talking about other, the normal state schools, right? Which, you represent, right? Where they have got the funding coming from the government. Okay, fair enough, there's been cuts, but we had examples of a lot of schools that are achieving those, good results.
I mean, it's not just funding. The funding is part of the issue.
Yeah.
Aspirations, the brother mentioned there, aspirations and standards, expectations. I think we're missing one loop here.
Yeah.
The schooling system is a partnership between the LEA, the school, the teachers, and the parents and the children.
Yeah.
And I think we haven't actually mentioned in all of this that parents and children also have a role.
Yeah.
And alhamdulillah, a lot more brothers and sisters are coming forward and stepping forward and taking roles in the governing body, because this is the body that controls the running of the school, or oversees the running of the school, is responsible for it.
Yeah.
And we need more people to be interested in their children, to be articulate and motivated, and challenge the school and challenge the LEA where we think performance is substandard. And the standards are high compared to maybe when me and you were at school. The expectations of what a child should be able to do at the ages of 6, 7, 8 to 11 I think are significantly higher than they were previously. Do we have the resources in Luton? If not, why can't we attract the best head teachers? Why can't we attract the best teachers? Why can't we retain teachers? For example, in 1 year we had to recruit 7 newly qualified teachers. Wow. Now, 7 newly qualified teachers in a year, that's a challenge, because a newly qualified teacher is not as settled as an experienced teacher. But they are expected to be able to manage a class of 30 children in the same way. Right? So why can Luton not attract the best and retain the best?
Right. So let's go to Councillor Mahmoud and ask that question. Councillor Saab, I mean, Okay, we've got a caller. All right, so we'll come on to Brother Ashfar Chowdhury in a minute. But Councillor Saab, I mean that question there with regards to the council LEA, right? The partnership. I think Hisham makes a fantastic point. Of course, the parents need to be an active participant in all of this, right? There needs to be accountability. There needs to be this questions that are being asked, right? I mean, it's all great saying that we haven't got an inadequate schools and with this and with that, but the reality is at the moment is a lot of our schools are falling well below the standard or not up there in terms of good and outstanding, right? Yeah. We need to see more of that.
Yeah, this is what I said right at the beginning, that it is a partnership between the local authority, the parents, the governors, and the leadership of the school. Yeah. The governors play a very vital role to challenge the school and the parents too. Yeah. But more importantly, I think it is that if a school, and there are people will make different excuses for not improvement, be that English as an additional deprivation. Yeah. Now, I give you another example of the top 5 schools in the country. Yeah. One of them happens to be in Luton, Tennyson Primary. I was very proud when Tennyson Primary received Key Stage 2 result 100%, and the Minister for Children's Services writes to it and says, well done. Right. That is something in the deprived area of Luton. If they can do it, what is the excuse for anybody else? Okay. So I accept there are teacher shortages. I accept the resources are, but it is also with the parents as well as the leadership. It is a joint partnership between all of, and it is not just the local authority, but I think we should all challenge and not accept that if the results are not improved.
Okay, so I've got a new guest on the line. I'm going to introduce the guest very quickly, but in the meantime, I want to give you a question to think about and before I come back to you, and that's what happens next and how do we turn this around? That's going to be my question to you before we wrap it up, because we're coming towards the end of the half an hour slot. But Ashfaq Chowdhury, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Friday Night Live. Hopefully you've been listening to this conversation that we've been having for the last 20 minutes or so. And you're, of course, from Al-Hikmah School. What's your take on this, Ashfaq Bhai? Because we have discussed this previously with yourself here in the studio also.
Okay, so just wanted to add a few points. My brother Abdul Wadud, I think, has very eloquently put forward some of the issues that are there. I actually see the cup actually half full rather than half empty. Right. I see a lot of our schools are now being taken over by the new generation who are now doing a fantastic job of them. They're turning those schools around. Abdul Wadud is probably a classical example of that. Who is actually now turning a school around. As far as we are concerned, one of the tricks I think one of our schools or many of our schools are missing is the ability to be able to network with other private schools. We decided to join the IISA, or the Independent Schools Alliance, which established many hundred years back. And since joining, we've now also not being inspected by Ofsted, rather being inspected by ISI, which is another inspectorate, which inspectors the majority of the independent schools in this country. We get regular help and support from them. They come and do mock audits. Right. And there's a huge amount of courses that our teachers are now going on for improvement.
Ashfaq Sahab, if I come back to you, I mean, in the report that I've got in front of me is dated 2016 for Al-Hikmah Secondary School. So it's been a few years. I don't know what the latest status is.
First of all, that report is not relevant. Okay. Because we're not an Ofsted school, we're an ISI school. Our report you will get on ISI's website. Right. Which shows that the school is fully compliant with all the regulations or the independent school standards. Okay. The only recommendation you'll see there is they want us to register boys and girls schools separately.
Right. Okay. And the general question that I ask Abdul Wadud, I mean, in terms of the faith schools, where's the big challenge? Is it just that traditional mindset change between what previously was the threshold and the kind of criteria we set ourselves when setting up the schools versus what are the modern day challenges of schools and what is expected from those schools? Is it that transition that's being made? Is that what the issue is?
I think our schools are going through that transition, but one of the biggest support would be to actually join the bigger body of schools, which is thousands of independent schools together. So that's one of the leaps many of our schools need to do. Yeah. The other thing is I won't be as kind about Ofsted because I've had personal experience. Yeah. And Ofsted often, and you would have seen this week in the news, where King David School in Manchester, who basically have now overturned the ruling from inadequate to outstanding. Right. I mean, how could a school within 10 days overturned this entire thing.
Wow.
So Ofsted credibility is greatly in question whenever it comes to Muslims.
Yeah.
You would see when it comes to hijab, the Ofsted has a certain standing. When it comes to faith schools, Ofsted has a different stance.
Correct.
So I won't be as kind to Ofsted at all, really.
No, exactly. So the question's out there, and that's why I said, is it Ofsted being awkward, or is it the schools really underperforming, right? So I'm happy to, for that to be challenged and for that to be corrected.
We can't say none of the schools are underperforming, but I would say the majority of the schools are actually turning themselves around and becoming even better. And as I said, for us, the Ofsted is history. We're actually an ISI school, and the report is online. You see all standards are met.
So that's interesting. Unfortunately, gents, right? We're going to go into commercial break in 30 seconds, but I don't want to, I don't want to prematurely end our conversation here. So if you can just hold on for a couple of minutes, I want to come back. I want to try to tie these threads together and say, what is it that needs to happen, right, to get that turnaround in our community, in our schools, whatever the limitations are. What do we need to do? What's the action plan? And what is the partnership that is required from parents? Because a lot of parents are listening to me and are probably just listening and not getting involved quite at this stage. It is Friday Night Live. You are with me, Hafiz Shaban. We're going to go into a commercial break. We'll be back in a couple of seconds. Until then, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, this is Atif Nawaz. Listen to Inspire FM shows in your time by heading over to inspirefm.org or listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Friday Night Live this Friday, the 11th of October evening. It's now 7:30 and we are fast approaching towards that 8 o'clock mark for the end of the show. Been fantastic, very interesting conversations and discussions all evening. Jazakallah for all of you who have got involved. Still not had that first phone call that I'm waiting for this evening. So, who's going to be brave enough and pick up that phone and dial 01582481822 to speak to us here in the studio, because we're talking about a subject which should be concerning, or which should be of concern to all of the parents listening to the show, and that's the education of your children. Education of your children. Are you satisfied with the education of your children? 21 Luton schools rated inadequate or requires improvement by Ofsted, to me raises a lot of questions, and we're trying to get some answers to those questions. But you know what, as Brother Hisham said earlier, it's about getting those parents involved too, and it's about you parents picking up the phone and raising your concerns, right? Raising your concerns now, and also raising your concerns to the schools, raising your concerns with the council, raising your schools with concerns with the governors, right? Getting your views across. And I feel that our community does a lot of listening and doesn't quite do enough talking. And someone might correct me and say, yeah, we do a lot of talking too, but we don't do any action, right? So we need some action, right? So very kindly, my panelists have agreed to stay behind another couple of minutes, and I want to wrap up this conversation with a question, and that's, what are we going to do about this, right? What are we going to do about it? We've talked about the problem. We've talked about, what are the potential reasons for this problem. We've talked about some of the potential areas that we can improve upon. Practically, what are we going to do about it, right? So we're in this transition phase. It may be Ofsted being a bit awkward, not quite happy with some of our faith schools, and therefore branding them, the way they've branded them. I get that and I hear that, and there is a legitimate concern. I appreciate that, right? But we can't always use the blame game, right? So I want to go straight to Abdul Wadud, Ashfaq Chaudhry after that. And my question is, what are we going to do? Some of you have already described the transitional phase that you're in, but what are you going to practically do to turn this around? And give me a time frame before I can, very gladly announce on Friday Night Live that you've gone from requiring improvement to good or to outstanding. Abdul Wadud.
Inshallah, it should be the latter. What we're going to do is two things. One is, like we've been doing for the last 12 months, we're working hard day and night relentlessly, and that's no over-exaggeration, to put the right infrastructure in place that's sustainable, that's there for years to come to turn this school around. And what does that mean in practical sense? That means having good people, having the right organization, right system, right procedures, also the right attitude more than anything, changing the mindset of the staff, the parents, the students, so that they understand the expectations that are set. One of the things that I probably inherited in the school when we took over was an attitude that, maybe we can accept second best. Well, alhamdulillah, I can tell you for certain that attitude is slowly but surely turning around. Hence why the improvements, I think, are in place.
Right.
One final thing from me.
If you could also include a time frame for me. I mean, I'd be interested to know, what do you think is realistic?
Yeah, I think realistically, time frame wise for us, we're anticipating another inspection sometime in the next calendar year.
Right.
So from our perspective, sometime within the next 12 months, before that inspection or when that inspection occurs, we should have turned things around. That's the target time frame that we've given ourselves.
All right, brother Jazakallah khair. Brother Ashfaq Chaudhry.
I was just going to say one other thing.
Go on then.
Brother Hisham mentioned a really good point about we needing the support of the parents.
Yeah.
I think it's not just the parents that we need the support of, but we also need the support of the wider community as well. Many people in the community have many skills that they can offer, not just the faith-based schools, but also the maintained schools. Roll up your sleeves and give us an hour or two of your expertise, because you've got a lot to offer and we could really do that.
Right, fantastic. Thank you very much, Brother Abdul Wadud. Jazakallah khairan for your comments and for your contribution this evening. Brother Ashfaq Chaudhry.
Yeah, let me go back. As I said, I'll labor on the point again, is that, as I said, the offset category is not relevant to us. Our position of our school at the moment is, all our requirements have been met.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to our next ISI inspection in the next academic year, where we have invested very heavily into leadership, resources, into new teaching, and inshallah, our target in that inspection, at the moment we meet the standards, and in that inspection we hope to meet the standards and if not excel in those. So that's our target going forward.
I mean, if I was to tell you to use the Richter scale, right, use the Ofsted, are you confident that you would be in that outstanding category, Ashfaq Chaudhry?
Well, first of all, I think, the offset outstanding is quite a myth, really, to be honest with you.
Okay.
There are schools that are outstanding which haven't been inspected for 10 years.
Yeah.
What that tells you is absolutely nothing. I mean, 2 sets of GCSEs have gone and come by. Our target is to be good all the time. Outstanding is quite a mythical standard. In fact, I think the Chief Inspector of Ofsted also thinks not much about it.
Right.
The idea is the schools have to be good all the time.
Right.
Schools are not perfect places, but our target is to be good all the time with the kind of funding we got. If we can double it, like Islamia, or triple it, then inshallah, we want to take it to even better if.
All right, Jazakallah khair, Brother Ashfaq Chaudhry. Right, I'm going to come to Brother Hisham, and before I do, I've got another contributor who's sent in a social media message. I don't know if he wants me to read his name or not, but anyway, he was a governor in a local school and was squeezed out for challenging the head teacher. Right, Heads handpick the governors and remove those that challenge and ask for accountability. This makes governing bodies really weak and doesn't reflect or represent the community, right? Just bear that in mind. I don't know if you want to comment on that or not. But Brother Hisham, during that break, we were discussing about what do we need to do to turn this around? What are the practical actions that really need to happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to speak from a parent and a governor's perspective.
Yeah.
Get involved, people.
Yeah.
Do not accept second best for your children.
Yeah.
This is about aspiration, right? And if your aspirations are that you want the best for your children and you will challenge that, you will get the best, inshallah.
And this means being proactive with your school. What's happening with the results of the school? What are the resources? What is the school using, not using? And pushing.
Challenge your school. Volunteer for the roles. There's always roles available, usually at governing bodies. The brother on the social media mentioned about sometimes challenging governors are sidetracked. But if you have a good governing body that holds on, they can challenge effectively.
Right. I think this deserves another show sometime later, inshallah, in our schedule and in our calendar, because the producers are telling me to make a move on to the next story. But Jazakallah khair, Brother Hisham, for coming into the studio and giving us your valuable time. Very quickly, Councillor Saab, Mahmood Hussain Saab, from a council perspective, tell me something that will be music to my ears and to a lot of parents. What are you doing about it?
It's incumbent on all of us, not just the councillor. It is the parents, the governing everybody and the community and the society as a whole not to accept failure. Expectation, the target must be very high. All schools have set a target and they must achieve those, and nothing should be accepted in terms of excuses.
But does that mean the council is going to be ploughing in more money, more resources? I think that's what the parents want to hear. I mean, I'm hearing the parents, the psychological messages come to me. I'm not seeing them physically come to me, but I think they want to hear these kind of things that the council is going to do practically. Put some more money, put some more resources into the local schooling.
The council used to receive 110 million pounds. Next year, we'll be lucky if we get 10 million. That 100 million cut by the government. So council hasn't got it, but the government has committed in the spending review that they will put more money into schools.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time 10 minutes ago, but I want to thank you, Brother Abdul Wadud, Brother Ashfaq Chaudhry on the telephone, Jazakallah khair, and I want to thank in the studio Brother Hisham Parker and Councillor Mahmoud Hussain for your valuable time and for coming into the studio. Gentlemen, Jazakallah khair, thank you very much. Inshallah, we're going to park that conversation until a future date, because I think hour in its own right for a future conversation, inshallah ta'ala. Listeners, you are with me, Hafiz Shaban, on Friday Night Live, and we've been having a great conversation. I'm moving into my last 15 minutes of this evening, right? And you know what? I'm going to move on to a rather different story now, a positive story. Again, it caught my attention earlier this week, mashallah, right? We cover a lot of negative stories, right? A lot of times on Friday Night Live, and I'm always complaining that we don't cover some of these positive stories, right? And then here, lo and behold, this week I pick up the press and I see a positive story and I say, hey, this is a story that we should be covering. But it's a story with a change, right? You're going to be a bit surprised by this story, I guess my listeners, right? It's about, what is this story about? This story is about lemon crispy chicken. lemon crispy chicken. I mean, that's a big difference from the stories I've been covering earlier. But what does lemon crispy chicken mean to you, my dear listeners? Right? Does that make or sound like anything that you're at all familiar with? Right? That's let me ask my listeners to send in their messages 07779 481 822 or 01582 481 822. Number here in the studio. I'll solve the riddle for you. Lemon crispy chicken is a takeaway, right? It's a takeaway in Luton, and it's been shortlisted. It's been shortlisted in the takeaway of the year category. Wow! Can you believe that potentially we've got the takeaway of the year South category right here in Luton, right? So I read this article. And mashallah, I mean, there's some good stuff here, man. This is some good stuff here, right? So, a delighted Luton business has been announced as a finalist in the 6th Annual Food Awards England 2019. Now, what really caught my attention, right, was not only the fact that it's been shortlisted as a takeaway of the Year South category, right? And these awards are going to be taking place this week, I think, or is it next week? Next week, right? 14th of October. But when I actually read the article, I mean, it was great news to see that this takeaway is actually doing more than just serving up tasty food to its customers. It's actually also getting involved actively with the community and also actually addressing a problem with homelessness and actually feeding some of his food to the homeless people. Fantastic stuff. I thought, let's get in someone from the takeaway. And if I believe correctly, I've got brother, is it Sayyid Shafiq Hussain Shahzab? Yeah. MashaAllah, right? So you're on mic 4, so let me put your mic up, inshallah. So firstly, welcome and assalamu alaikum to Friday Night Live and Inspire FM. I think it's your first time here in the studio, so nothing to be intimidated by or to be scared about. Be totally comfortable, inshallah ta'ala. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And even if you want to speak a bit of Patwari and a bit Urdu, we can entertain that.
I don't really mind. It's okay.
So you're good. All right, that's good. So tell me about what happened here and tell me about the story and tell the listeners about the story.
Yeah, I'm Shah from Lemon Crispy Chicken and Pizza, Old Bedford Road, Luton.
Yeah.
I've been into the food industry for like good 15 years.
15 years?
Yeah.
So this takeaway, you've had it for 15 years?
No, I didn't have it, but I've been personally into the food industry for 15 years. But this takeaway, I recently opened in 2017, May 2017. I came up with the idea.
2017, yeah?
2017, May 2017.
Right. Okay, so 2017. Normally when I send out messages, bro, it takes so long to get messages. Already people are messaging in. Lemon crispy chicken, love it. Very clean takeaway, tasty and consistent. Wow, that's fantastic. You must have paid him before you came in, right?
Yeah.
And then we've got another message from Asif here. Alhamdulillah, good food. So these guys are doing free marketing for you here, right? We're going to have to charge you a price for the end of this.
No problem.
All right, let's go back to the story here. Let's go back to the story. Look at this, strips and chips zindabad, man. Yeah. We've got social media on a roll here, mashallah. All right, let's go back to the story, mashallah. Go on.
So basically, I was into the industry for a very long time, so I always had in my mind to go something beyond the it's typical takeaway thing.
Exactly.
Something innovative, something new in the takeaway. Because there are two types of takeaway in this industry. You go a high end and a bottom end.
Yes.
So the high end people, they're just to make money.
Yes.
They are not there to serve communities or anything. They just make money. They give you good food. They give you good hygiene, good everything, services, but they charge you silly money for that. The bottom end people, they try to fill you up with a cheap filler as well, but they're not giving you that good service or that good food.
Yes.
So basically our generation, they're growing up eating most of these foods.
Right.
That there needs to be something that is a bit of healthy touch as well, a bit of fast food and clean.
Yes.
And that's why I came up with the idea to just, I had a lot of experience in this industry, so I came up with the idea, a bit of healthy touch in the food.
Yes. Right.
And the service-wise, the area I've chosen, that was not very good for the business because that was the premises was the failed takeaway for past, say, 20 years.
Right.
So the community in that area, they were really fed up with these takeaways. They come in and go in. No one is staying there in the place. That was just because they were not that good in the food.
Wow.
So from the beginning when I started, the building, because I knew what the health and safety rules and regulations say, I went by the rules. So that gave me a little edge. Basically our people, their premises are not very clean. That's the main issue. The majority.
I was going to say that. I mean, normally when I hear the press, right? I hear the press, especially when it comes to takeaways, it's always for the negative reasons. It's not for the positive reason. And that's why I thought, let's cover this story because it was for a positive reason, right? So which is great, right? So I hear that you came 2017, you've turned it around, and of course, I mean, this award, you didn't nominate yourself, or you didn't?
I didn't even know. I just found out when I received the email.
You received an email and you found out. So who actually nominated you?
They were my customer. They're lovely customer.
Which is fantastic, right? So it's actually speaks volumes when your customers are the ones who nominate you as a takeaway to say, you know what, these guys should be the best. And like I said to you, I mean, we've got plenty of social media messages coming here saying strips and chips zindabad and free food laughing out loud. Yeah, exactly. So we're getting some good messages. So your customers nominated you for this award, right? So you must have been really
I'm really grateful. Yeah, I was surprised because I was getting ready for probably next year that I should go for it.
Yes.
But I didn't know I'm gonna get nominated this year because from when I started with the mind something with the qualities and the services of the top end in the bottom community. So the idea, it worked really well because of, hard work always
pays off, right? So for the listeners, right? So when the producers told me that they've got the owner coming in, right? So I said, I really can't talk about this story unless you bring some food in, man. So I gotta try some food to be able to really talk about it. So I can actually smell it. I think you've bought some food in, man. I can smell it. So I'm really looking forward to going into the other room and trying some of this delicious food, inshallah. But you talk about bringing some kind of a healthy element to it. What
basically, there was a campaign in Essex and Luton. It started last year. There were some charities and some NGOs. They were putting some healthy stuff in the existing takeaways. They chose the takeaways over 4-star and 5-star hygiene rating takeaways. And they got our people to train how to make the fast food healthier. So we're using less cholesterol oils. We're using less salts.
Good. Okay.
We use less sugars and no energy drinks at all.
Right.
We don't sell any energy drink in our shops.
Right.
Just because we recommend more the diet drinks and waters. And
you might as well just sell water, man, and recommend people
No,
drink water.
we're selling all the drinks. It's not that. But
the energy drinks, you're right.
Energy drinks, we just completely cut off. No, we said no to energy drinks
Fantastic.
because that's not good for the kids.
Right.
And we didn't compromise any taste. The good thing is, it's not that food wouldn't give you the same taste. We kept our recipes.
Yeah.
And we put that healthier touch. Right. So it's a little change, but it does make big difference on the long run.
Right. So, okay, I'm going to come on to another point, but before that, let me tell you, I drive past your takeaway almost every day because I drop off my son or pick up my son from this train station, and I always see the takeaway on the left, and you know what? I have to be honest, and I have to say, I always see quite a lot of people inside, which is always a positive sign, right? So here goes that. I'm sure Tariq's going to be listening, who's the operations manager at Inspire FM, and he's going to be saying, look, I'm giving you free marketing here and free publicity, but I'm sure we can ripe it in with a sponsorship deal, Brother Tariq, right? That's going to be my case. But you know what was really fantastic, right, about, what the article is, your partnership or your support of the homeless people. Tell me about that. How
basically that area, the High Town and then that area. If you know the area, there are so many people in the evening. They just
near the train station.
Near the train station at that area. So as soon as we open, they know there's a food shop. So they were coming late night. Is there anything left over? That's what they were asking. Leftover food. So I deliberately make some extra at the end, so I know they're coming. They come every day, so they're regulars. They're my regulars. They're quite good. They come every day.
So you've got regulars, who order through whatever, right, and come in and buy, and then you've got regulars who come right at the end, who they're going to come for food, mashallah, man. So that's good sadaqah also, jari at the same time, and of course, it goes to actually confirm the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that sadaqah, it never decreases your wealth. It always increases your wealth. Look at that, subhanAllah, because of that gesture that you actually were doing. That's what I read, and I thought, you know what, we need to cover this story. This is fantastic. And you see, this is the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases the rizq out of the ways that you can never imagine. But tell me about it, because of course you're feeding them, but are you also having a conversation with these people who are coming in for food? Are you able to spend a couple of minutes, maybe bring in some people to have a conversation with them, try to give them a bit of
basically, if I be honest, on the takeaways you don't get that much time.
You're busy.
It's busy. I do ask them how you doing, how you keeping well, are you having a warm night, these kind of questions, but no much time, to be honest.
I would use some of our partners, like we've got the Dawah Center and Discover Islam and some of these other organizations who kind of specialize in those areas, and say to them, look, we've got a number of people who are coming on a long-term basis, especially if they're your regular customers, right? And then it's like the proverb, instead of giving them fish every day, teach them how to fish. You solve the problem. It's great what you're doing, right? But it's about giving them a long-term solution. And some of these brothers, they would be more than willing to come along one evening and meet some of these people, interact with them, and maybe get a shelter over their head. Maybe get them a job. Maybe get them back on their feet in terms of a long-term solution for them. But anyway, fantastic. Last quick question, inshallah. So, are you optimistic? Are you excited by what's about to happen next week? Are you convinced that you're going to be able to win the award itself? What's your feeling? I'm
confident. I think I'm going to. The support I'm seeing for the last 2 weeks from the customers and from the community, that's
seriously. Yeah. So when this story went to press, what was the reaction? What happened?
Basically, they found me. The press found me, to interview me. I was busy at work. They found me, so
you have to make time out of your busy schedule.
Busy, So especially after this story, I'm getting too busy. But there's so many people they come in to say, "Mashallah."
We'll get your autograph and we'll get your pictures here in the studio before you become.
No, I don't want to be a celebrity. I just want to stay in my community and just a little corner shop. It's not a big thing, but Alhamdulillah, I'm trying to be more good for my community. So it's good. I'm more confident next week. I'm I'm inshallah going to get
inshallah. Okay, Jazakallah khair. We've run out of time, but stay in touch, inshallah ta'ala. And we do wish you all the best. The black tie ceremony. So are you going to be going to Manchester Piccadilly next week?
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to be going to Manchester Piccadilly. Excellent, inshallah. So have a safe trip to Manchester, and let us know what happens. And send us some of the pictures to our number here on Inspire FM, inshallah ta'ala. And we'll get an update to our listeners next week, inshallah ta'ala.
No problem. Thank you very much.
So listeners, this is brother Sayyid Shafiq Hussain Shah Saab of what was the takeaway name again? A lemon crispy chicken, is that right?
Lemon crispy chicken.
Lemon crispy chicken, mashallah, all Bedford. Jazakallah khair, brother, and thank you very much for coming into the studio.
Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair. All right, listeners, that was Friday Night Live this evening, inshallah ta'ala, and that was a fantastic positive story to finish off this evening show. We've been covering a number of stories. I just want to give a quick reminder about the lead story that when we started almost a good 2 hours ago, right? And that was on the update from the Kashmir earthquake, right? Kashmir earthquake update. And the brothers out in Mirpur, message from them was, Pakistan and the people of Mirpur need our support, need our help. So I just want to emphasize that, right? Because a lot of us, I personally also thought, okay, I know there's been some damage and there's been some fatalities, but it hasn't been quite that bad. But I tell you what, I was a bit surprised because one of our local residents, Brother Bashar's been out in Pakistan himself. I've seen the videos that he sent over. I've seen some of the pictures that he sent over of people living in makeshift camps, right? So you'll be very surprised. The weather at the moment is still fairly hot out there at the moment. Temperatures are going to be starting to drop shortly, right? So those people need your support, inshallah ta'ala. So do not forget them in your du'as, and definitely don't forget them in terms of the material support that you can offer them, right? We've covered a number of stories this evening, and you know what, I mean, normally these are the kind of stories that I'm covering that catch my attention, but if something catches your attention, why don't you message me? Right? Why don't you message me and say, you know what, hey guys, why don't you cover this on Friday Night Live, and you know what, we might consider covering it. But let me do something what I've never done before, right? I'm going to give you a preview into one of the stories that I'm going to be covering next week, right? Next week, I've got a very special guest coming into the studio, and that's our own local, right? MMA fighter, right? MMA fighter, Lutonian, right? Who's got an upcoming fight that's coming up in the next couple of weeks, and he's going to be coming into the studio, Brother Faisal. Brother Faisal is going to be coming here in the studio, and he's going to be telling me about his upcoming fight. So I'm going to be interviewing Faisal next week, inshallah ta'ala. I also want to cover next week the current, Pakistan and China belt, right? This huge investment that's going in between Pakistan and China. I want to do a bit of a deep dive next week and cover what are some of the projects that are going on, and really whose benefit is all of these projects and all of this investment, all of this debt that Pakistan is taking on, right? But that's for next week. As for this week, do leave your thoughts, do leave your messages with us here in the studio, and that's about it. Until next week, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh from me, Hafiz Shaban, Friday Night Live.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Why not tune in to our live stream at inspirefm.org and follow and subscribe to our social media platforms at Inspire FM Luton.